Welcome to Best Boys, a film podcast. An amateur film study podcast for the average Joe, the buffest buffs, and the cringiest bingers. I'm your host, JP, and I'm joined by my brother, professional Hollywood videographer.
Kory with a story. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back.
What's happening? What's crapping, my dude?
Not much. A lot of work. Been a lot of things going on, but I think I talked about it like a long time ago, but it's finally happening. We're shooting on this upcoming Wednesday, the 10th, Rough Pants. It'll be a sequel to the last coveted Smooth Pants of critical acclaim, world renown.
I can vouch for it. Smooth Pants is good.
But it'll be a lot of fun. The only downside is the one actor that I like very much want to be in it is going to be in DC. So Tuesday I'm driving down to pick him up, and then I'm going to take him home Thursday. But other than that, everything seems to be coming together. We got the denim cloaks came in yesterday, so that's exciting. I got to make some torches still, and that's all I'm going to give hints wise.
Wow. This is going to be like, I'm just imagining like the forest with denim.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. But we're going to shoot it out on the farm here. I think it's just going to be, I told everybody in the email who's working on it, there's like 8 of us coming together, that I want you to take this as seriously as me and Kevin took this writing it. Not at all. This is just, it's as dumb as you think it is, but we're going to shoot it like it's this super big thriller drama. The inspiration I have for this one's Mother, and a little bit of that. I'm going to use that Dolls sound from Akira, the Dolls soundtrack.
Yeah, okay.
Akira. I'm sampling that to put for the score.
I like that.
It has a whole vibe to it that I'm just so to shoot.
This sounds great. I mean, I'm super interested to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We're gonna be shooting on Kawa Evolutions. And these are they're the modern redo of the old vintage Kawa anamorphics. They're super nice. I did a test with them a couple weeks ago, and hopefully I can get my Komodo back in time. But if not, we'll just shoot on like helium or something. But it'll look good at least. At the very least, as dumb as it is, it will look good.
Yeah, I wanna. You gotta keep me updated. Keep us updated on how that goes. Rough Pants.
Yeah,
Smooth Pants 2, Rough Pants.
Is that or I'm torn between that or calling it Rough Pants, Smooth Pants Part 2.
You could just be Rough Pants. It could just be Rough Pants.
Yeah, that like I'm fine with
because it's
too.
Like smooth, the smooth of the dead, the rough of the dead. And then you need some other texture. We need some other texture.
It's all of the pants.
I'm glad that I'm just happy that our research and studies on this podcast have been inspiring to you, because that's what it's all about.
Very much. After we watched Mother, that's what really sparked the tone and themes for Rough Pants. So,
I mean, is it gonna be highly allegorical, or
just in like the way it's shot is where
I get you.
Warm and moody.
I'm just imagining Smooth Pants for being a metaphor for like the birth of Christ or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just have to wait and see. Let's just wait and see what happens.
Jesus is gonna be born, or are you gonna go the Teton route and there's gonna be a baby made of denim?
I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah, you gotta get me in the writer's room, dog.
Yeah.
That's funny as fuck.
Yeah,
that's
Kevin
hilarious.
has sex with the pants and gets pregnant.
Yeah. Kevin's pregnant, of course.
Yeah.
And when his like pregnant belly's just it's just denim.
Yeah.
It just like melts with his flesh.
Yeah, it's just a spool of Joanne fabric as the afterbirth.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
The ball of twine, ball of string. But all right, we're here. We're here.
Yeah.
We came here to talk
for
about
another time.
We will talk about this more. But I want to talk about a couple of new movies that came out, and we are in the midst of new movie season right now. We got 2 this week. We got one next week that already dropped and came out. I'm not gonna spoil that yet. You gotta stick around to the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But but then we got two of them. And I was gonna say, after this new year, we might have to take a little slow down, because this has just been a grueling pace. I have probably not been in the movie theater this much, maybe ever.
Yeah.
And it's been great because it's mostly empty movie theaters, so I'm not even worried about any COVID aspects. But yeah, that leads me to how I got to an empty theater, at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and to watch a movie by Edgar Wright. One of my, I wouldn't say, not one of my favorites, but definitely someone that I've had a connection with film wise for a very long time. From Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, but then again later in life with Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim for a while was one of my probably top 5 movies ever. Definitely just the style of it and everything. I also enjoyed Baby Driver, which is not aged as well. I remember everyone liked it when it came out, but I had a couple friends that didn't, but mostly everyone was very positive on it. And then as time went on, I saw more and more sour takes and bad takes. And I it was this heavy pastiche. I really liked the music video movie thing because I did that as a kid, like where I'd walk around and listen to headphones, and it made me felt like I was in a music video, and I liked a lot of the movie. But now looking back on it, I've only seen it once, and thinking back on it, there are some things that might not have aged as well. But yeah, so before we get into Last Night in Soho, what is your history with Edgar Wright's filmography?
Well, I mean, for starters, some of his movies are in my top 10 all-time comedies for sure. Like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are classics for a while, but
just comedies.
As far as comedies, Scott Pilgrim, on the other hand, is definitely in my top 10 all time. I've seen that movie 100 times. It's just so perfect for what it's trying to be, and it's a shame that it didn't do well at the box office. But I, on the other hand, did not like Baby Driver. I saw it a year or two after it had come out, and I just the music video part as a music video director, super cool, awesome, but it just wasn't enough to sustain me for an hour and a half. It just kind of I got bored with it, and which leads us into Last Night in Soho, which I feel like this is more of his going in less of his normal style direction and trying to branch out into something more, I guess, clinical, maybe.
He did a documentary on the Sparks Brothers earlier in the year, and we did talk about possibly doing that after we found out that they did the music for Annette. And yeah, I was debated on doing an episode of this and Sparks Brothers, but I thought that it was, maybe not big enough or whatever, and I'm definitely gonna watch that movie by myself, but yeah, I'm just looking at his filmography here, and I've seen almost all of these movies, and I've seen many of them several times. Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim. I've seen The World's End a couple times. Ant-Man, I know.
Great movie.
I know Ant-Man isn't his in name, but you could see his DNA all over it. And yeah, Baby Driver I've only seen once. That's the one I've only seen once. But he's got a new film out, and it's called Last Night in Soho, and it stars Thomasin McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy, Matt Smith, Diana Rigg, and Terrence Stamp. The cast, just while I'm mentioning it, is one of the things that carries this film. But I am just gonna get out right with it that this is a significant step down for me, and I have been seeing some discussions floating around the internet. The movie is getting divisive takes. I do see people like it. I do see people not like it. The reviews are more positive than not, but still divided. And I see people looking at his filmography in a little bit of a different way now after these last two efforts, and then looking at the whole picture. So before we get into that, because that's what I want to wrap this whole thing, this review up with. What did you think about Last Night in Soho?
I have to agree. I definitely feel this is a downward trajectory. It didn't feel like an Edgar Wright movie. Like nothing. I feel like I went in there with some expectations, and now I knew this was going to be a comedy, in the same vein of his previous films. But I was excited to see him do more of a thriller take on this, and it just kind of, it's just, it is what it is. It's not a bad movie by any means, but I wouldn't watch it again. I spent most of my time kind of bored.
I spent most of my time waiting for this movie to be over, and it's a shame. And it's, and it wasn't because of, people talk about being bored during these, slow burn A24-ish movies. This is not a slow burn. It's has slow moments, but it's really like things are happening, and it does move to the next thing. It just feels like an eternity. Every scene feels really long. It feels like there's a lot of scenes that just kind of multiple. It gets like redundant, I think, in like the either beginning of the third act, end of the second act. I'm never good at like demarcating those, but it's around that point, the 2/3 point of the movie, I was just like, we could just move right on to the end if you wanted to. Does this movie need? I think the 2 hours, hour and 56 minutes. I think that really hurt it. I think it hurts it. I think this movie could have been 10, 15 minutes less. And I honestly, I think it could have been an hour and a half. I think you cut the ending off, off, and just leave it more ambiguous. I think there's a couple scenes with her running and screaming from things. How many times are people almost going to get hit by a taxi? I know that it's trying to go for a motif, but I'm not. Oh, because the taxi. Okay, all right, sorry, getting in too deep. Let me run it back a little bit, because the theme of this movie, and this is what's gonna make or break it for you, and not in the way that you think, is that this is a very feminist story. And that, this is like a woman's perspective. It's a horror movie about what women have to deal with in terms of being crept on, in terms of being, sexually trafficked or pimped, quote unquote. And the dangers of, romanticizing the past. Other than the feminist line, it is anti-nostalgia. And themes are fine. Like some people are gonna automatically have an issue with a white man trying to tell a story like this, if it's not done very, very well. And this movie, in my opinion, is not done very, very well. It's very maybe not very, but it's definitely ham-fisted. It's definitely like beating you with some of these themes, and to the point where it doesn't become it's not very profound. But yeah, what do you think about any of that?
It just came off to me as just very traditional fish out of water for most of it, and I feel like it just took the generic beats with it, where it's just like because you don't really follow, like during the dream sequences you have these where you're seeing Anya Taylor-Joy's character being like pimped out and stuff, but you don't like it just shows it repetitive over and over again, like this is the same thing, this is all that's happening. It doesn't really create a like anything like new to feel about it, because by the end of seeing like the 100th time of the her in the bedroom with the gentleman callers, or when you see like the gentleman caller ghosts,
it's just so much. It's so much of that.
I'm desensitized to it, and I just don't care.
It's less could be so much more. I think it's this is a case of where you showed so much that it takes away from it, and Yeah, let me give the viewers a brief synopsis. So, Eloise, Ellie Turner is the name of her character, played by Thomasin McKenzie, who you may remember from Jojo Rabbit, or earlier episode, and she's obsessed with the '60s. She lives with her grandma. We know that her mother died, and we find out pretty quickly that she killed herself, and when she moved to London. Oh, we also learn very quickly that she sees her mother's ghost in mirrors, which doesn't come up very often. Very often.
Unexplained.
They do like the mirror thing with Anya Taylor-Joy and her in the dream world, where she's like watching her through a mirror, and then they see that they're the same in the mirror. But basically, she's there's a sequence in the beginning where she's moving into the dorm, and her roommate is a party girl, and they don't get along, and she just leaves. And there's like a party in the dorm. I've never seen a party in a dorm like this. It was weird though to think about freshmen being old enough to drink. Because it's in the UK, it's 18. I actually Googled it, and the drinking age is 18. And yeah, so I've seen this story before. Like you said, this whole beginning part, I was fine with it. I liked the 60s stuff, like the music and stuff. I liked it at this point. By the end of the movie, I start to see a bigger picture with how he uses licensed music, especially when you think about Baby Driver, which is literally all licensed music. Like it just that's like one of the carrying things of Baby Driver. I think this uses it as a crutch as well. Like the visuals like all the old Dream visuals are on point. Like seeing the street and all the cars and the people and how everyone's dressed. Like it's not like any of that is like the period stuff looks bad. It's just that I don't know, and it's like the red color is very heavy in the dreams, and it gets to a point where, it starts to kind of take away from what you're seeing. Like I don't even know what I'm seeing. Like it's just red and blood, and the red, everything's colored red, and but she ends up moving in with an old lady who's renting a room, and when she moves in, she starts having these weird dreams about, at first they were cool and fun, and she was taken back to the 60s, and Anya Taylor-Joy's character is trying to break into the entertainment business, be a singer and a dancer, and she finds out that Matt Smith's character is a manager. He manages female singers. At least that's what we're told at first, and then we find out that he is actually a pimp. So like the first dream we don't learn that, and then the second dream is when it sets up that the pimping stuff, and then we kind of just stay in that there's no more fun in the 60s for the rest of the movie, which is cool. Like I get it. Like you're looking back and you're like, oh my god, this is so amazing, and then you find out that the 60s had a lot of fucked up shit going on, and it's not, when we think about the past, it is sanitized. Or we only know what we see through movies and music and pop culture that has survived the time, but you didn't live there, and you didn't know what is the same bad shit that happens. Some of the same bad shit that still happens now happened then, and some of it was worse. But yeah, that's kind of what sets it up, and then she descends into madness from there. But yeah, what do you think?
I've written down my biggest gripes with the movie, and my number one is Nightmare on Elm Street ? Because I wrote that just because they hint at it with
like
her
Johnny
getting
Depp,
the hickey,
like the Johnny Depp scene.
Oh, when she gets the hickey.
Oh
and
yeah,
bringing stuff from
you're
the
right.
dream world
You're
into
right.
real
You're
world.
right. Yeah, you're right. They banded it and it never comes back.
Yeah, so that could have been worked upon a little bit cooler. I feel like if you're gonna do that as a nod, I guess, but you also just didn't do anything else interesting enough beyond. Like if it was just like, hey, these dream sequences and the cool shots with the mirror, and whether or not she's in the mirror or is Anya Taylor-Joy in those moments, they put all their eggs in that basket, and I just I don't think it works. I also have that it's I appreciate subverting the expectation of. I thought this was going to be more of like a detective thing. Like she's going to start researching all this murder stuff, and she does for like a half
Yeah.
a quarter of a scene. And that's cool that you that you didn't have it go there, but then you do absolutely nothing with her at all. She just has a mental breakdown in every scene.
Yeah, that's the
and
problem. It doesn't build on anything. There's like the mystery. The solving of the mystery.
She mentally stumbles her way to the end just by coincidence and things, because every time she tries to do something detective-y, she's wrong and then just has a mental breakdown or goes into psychosis or whatever, or falls asleep or has the dream sequence things happen, and it's just like I don't care. I feel like I don't know, like I'm not rooting for her because she's not doing anything to be rooting for other than just like falsely accusing an old man of being a murderer and realizing that she can't handle London.
Yeah, and it just kind of keeps beating the same things over the head. The day life, Ellie has a breakdown. In the night life, we have a dream about Anya Taylor-Joy's character Sandy being pimped out. Like it's just that for the whole middle of the movie. And then so there's a particular scene and she also gets a job at a bar, and it's kind of not a big thing, but she keeps interacting with this old guy, and she starts to think that the old guy is Matt Smith. Jack is the character's name. So that's all happening in the middle part of the movie too, but it's like not enough, and it's not interesting because there's nothing to find out. She just gets like random bits of information. She just like talks to him, and he disappears. And then she gets an information after from the bar people later. But my biggest issue with the scene-wise, the worst scene of the movie is after the Halloween party, which actually the Halloween party was probably one of the parts I liked the most. Weird that these young ass people are listening to 60s music, but then also like Susie Sue and like 80s stuff, and like it was all old. Everything was real old. I mean, these kids are freshmen. They're gonna be listening to some rap. Even if it is a artsy fartsy school, everybody everyone that is young listens at least a little bit.
Especially at the club.
But the Halloween party was fine. I like that. And then like the ghost face people kind of remind me of Doctor Who a little bit. Coincidentally, since Matt Smith is a doctor, a former doctor. And so John, the love interest of Ellie, who's also a fellow student. Also, I saw a really funny Letterboxd comment that said, "This fashion school has more straight men than anyone in real life," or something like that. And I thought that was funny. But John he was in the dorm. They lived in the dorm originally, and she moved out. But then they kind of kept connecting, and he's kind of following her around a little bit. And after the Halloween party, she's like, "I gotta stay up. I don't want to sleep." Like the Nightmare on Elm Street thing. And he's like, he looks at the camera. He's like, "I'll keep you up," like the classic joke.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. And it's weird. That was fine. Weird, but fine. They go back. She's like, "You got to be quiet. The old lady doesn't want me to bring any boys here." And so whatever, they're making out and whatnot. And she has a vision and freaks out. And our poor boy, John, it doesn't know what to do. I was like, this has got to be so traumatizing.
Yeah.
Like, this white girl's freaking out. And then she's calling for the grandma, and the grandma's talking about police. Like, that'd be the worst case scenario. He could die tonight. Oh, he could die.
For sure. Granted, it's not in America, so it might be different over there. But
little bit. But still, there's some of that. Still some of that dynamic there.
Yeah.
And the old lady somehow busts down a locked door, kicks down a locked door, this 80-year-old, 90-year-old lady. And yeah, he gets all fucked up and leaves. Okay, all right, so whatever.
And he walks on broken glass.
Never comes up again.
Fine.
Never,
yeah,
whatever. Sure. But then he still wants to be with Ellie after that. I would never want to see you again. I would never, ever, ever want to see you again. I don't care how cute you are or fun you are or hip you are. I don't. You're crazy, and I'm out of here.
Yeah. None of it made sense. He was a nice guy. I
he was
enjoyed
nice.
him on screen
The
and
actor's
everything,
name
but-
is Michael Ajao. I don't know if I said that. Yeah, his performance was fine. But the character was just very underwritten. Had just nothing except to be the love interest. And these are the one-dimensional characters like that are what make this feel generic.
Yeah, he exists so that he can open the door to distract the old lady to cause the house coming on fire. Like, that's his sole purpose in this movie, is to just be a distraction at the end of the movie.
He did stop her from killing Jocasta.
Well, that too, yeah.
Oh my God! I was like, yeah,
like,
if that happened, she'd be going to prison.
Yeah,
like, as much as Jocasta's a bitch, it's not gonna just get actually. Well, I think they try to imply that John talked to Jocasta afterward, or like made her chill out or something.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Where did she even get that machete thing?
What do you mean?
Didn't she try to chop Jocasta's head with a machete in the library?
She had giant fashion scissors.
That's what it was. That's
like
what it was.
Or fabric scissors.
Yeah, fabric scissors.
Big shears.
Yeah,
Also, how did he have the lightning reflexes to stop her like an inch away from Jocasta's eye?
Yeah, it was dumb. Oh,
I mean, that's the thing. If it was any other Edgar Wright movie that's a comedy, that's fine. I'm into that. That fits his style. But in this, it just feels like so much trying to be a serious thriller that just has some Edgar Wright levity in it, and it just does not work.
So then here's the other issue. The jump scares.
Oh God.
They were so bad. They weren't one. I'm a hater of jump scares. I will like it if it's done well once or twice maybe not even twice. Just like if you do it once and you get me, good for you. But if you rely on jump scares as a crutch to make your movie scary, because it is not scary. This movie is 0% scary. None.
It's not even. I don't even think it's a thriller. Really.
It's barely even a thriller. It's a It's just like a supernatural drama, not scary at all. But then you got a jump scare, which they weren't. Half of them I missed because I was bored, so I was like just like zoning out. And but a couple of them are just not. Yeah, they weren't even that good.
No, I mean the only ones that stick out for me were just the taxis because it happened like 4 times.
Like one time, someone grabbed her hand. She had like a dream within a dream, and they like grabbed her hand.
Oh
and
yeah,
she was going
like
for
those ones.
The alarm. There was one towards the end, I think. Yeah, this movie was just such a disappointment. It seemed like the previews made it like the cast is great. And on paper, this should be great. And I'm not like the score, like we're hating on it. And my score might not be quite as bad as how bad I'm hating on it, but it's just the fact that I was so disappointed, and so bored, just waiting for the end when you know what the end is and you're just waiting for it to happen. So, is there anything that you want to talk about before we talk about the twist?
I was just gonna say that this is one of the few movies I saw the trailer beforehand, and exactly how I feel about the movie after seeing it was exactly how I felt after seeing the trailer. I felt like I knew what this was gonna be. It's like when Kevin Smith did Cop Out, or it just feels like a generic thing that.
I think the trailer was fine. I thought the trailer. I was interested in it from the trailer.
I didn't get anything out of it. I was just like watching it. I just said, this does not for me. Doesn't look like it's for me, and but it wasn't, which is fine. But it's not a bad movie. Like, we were saying earlier that like Kylie liked it, but it's nah.
Well, there's a lot there. It's the most conventionally shot film for sure. But there's the 60 sequences do employ some techniques. There's like that kaleidoscope thing. It's like a picture and a picture and a picture, and there's like a soft little thing around it.
It's like they shot through like a prism.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. That I like that kind of stuff. There's definitely influence from your Roman Polanski's, your Brian De Palma's, Stanley Kubrick. Like you're seeing those big '60s director styles pop up.
Mm.
But this is just so saccharine, and even though it was about dark shit, and they wanted to really remind you this is dark. This is dark. As much as it's fun and silly, it's dark, and but there's like something about those old films. Like those films are made by real ass fucked up perverts. Like I hate to say
Yeah.
it, like they made great films, but they also were fucked up perverts. At least Polanski is definitely, but Kubrick is notorious for being a terrorizer on set, and like there's just this grit, and it shows in the products that this just doesn't have. When you're trying to emulate something like that, and I guess you're trying to like repurpose it. He's trying to take those kinds of that kind of art and make it about a story about a girl who's fighting for her life in the city of London, and and all the bad things, creepy men and assholes and just danger all around you. And so I get the idea, and I get there's so much of this that like either works or could work. It's just that it ended up in a bland, boring, saccharine, generic movie.
Yeah, I feel like there just needed to be some form of a threat in the real world, maybe to add more stakes to it, because like they abandoned the Freddy Krueger shit after the Hickey. So it's just like, and there's nothing in the real world that was gonna get her, and it was hard to tell whether like if she dies in these like little mental breakdown sequences, will she die for real or not? But I don't know. I have another note here written down it's I call it the horror Disney or Disney horror lighting, which is like if you look at like the more creepy scenes on like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies or anything where Disney tries to have like a horror look where everything is just still colorful, and even though things are getting dark into like letting things go to black in the lighting, it still just looks too vibrant and poppy, and that's what a lot of this movie is to me. Is just like the it just doesn't feel moody. It just feels
the
like
majority of the
stylized.
all the horror stuff looks like the Red, like it's it's all...
I mean, a lot of the stuff in the '60s too, even beyond the red, it's always just there's just big, bright, vibrant lights around somewhere, or like anyone's time someone's coming down like a stairwell or staircase, or walking outside, or there even though the shot where like at the end where Ellie's trying to catch up to Anya Taylor-Joy walking away through the mob of creepy zombies, but all you have is this just vibrant, radiating yellow light lighting up everything. And I feel like it doesn't make it horror moody. It just makes it feel like almost music video poppy creepy, but not creepy. I don't know. It's my Disney horror lighting.
Yeah, I don't know. I like I would say the fashion looked really good. There are seats, but you know what? And I love that we did these two movies together, and I was trying to hold off on comparing. But these are two movies heavily inspired by the '60s, and The French Dispatch feels '60s, and everything.
Yeah.
Everything is the attention to detail is perfect, and like the costuming is good, and and whatnot, and that street, the one street that they use multiple times, looks good, but beyond that, it's just like that feels like a facade. It feels like, the front of the set. Whereas, the French Dispatch is blocked like a stage play, shot like a stage play in many parts of it, but somehow just feels much more authentic. I feel like I'm watching something older, but new at the same time.
Yeah, and that's a credit to just the cinematography that like Wes Anderson and goes for with that, because having things set up like a diorama or a stage play, you can if everything is like that, it's very easy to become immersed in it and feel like it's lived in and feel real, and Wes Anderson's so good at that stuff.
Yeah, this is This movie was very generically shot. It's just it could have been something. Like I can see the style in there if it was just turned up. I could see the vibes. But like you got to do more than just put people in a costume and play a fuckload of 60s music. It's just non-stop. I don't really know what else to say about it because I feel like we hit most of the beats. But
just the ending.
Yeah, okay, we didn't bring up the twist. So the twist. Do you want to say the twist? Actually, I feel like I'm always the revealer.
So the twist in this one is Ellie fails out of fashion school. No, it's that
bad hair day.
The twist is that the old lady that she moves in with, Mrs. Collins, is actually Sandy, and Sandy wasn't murdered. Sandy was murdering boys, or the gentleman
Johns.
Her Johns.
Yeah, that's interesting that they made Michael Giles' character named John when John is a term for, clients, sexual clients.
And John said he could keep her up all night.
Yeah, that might have been something, but not
so many layers.
If it's there, it's not good. If that's real, it's not good. But yeah, so Diana Rigg is Sandy, aka Alexandra, and you could see it coming a mile away. Diana Rigg is a fine performance. You may remember her as Lady Olenna from Game of Thrones, who's a great character, and she's got a little of that energy, but it's whatever. It just feels nothing. You feel nothing from it. You saw it coming a mile away, and you're just waiting for this old lady to die so that we can end the movie. And it doesn't end after that, actually. And I'm really excited to talk about the ending. But essentially, John shows up, gets stabbed. Ellie has to kill the old lady and save him, and Matt Smith's ghost shows up and whatever, slaps her in the face.
Which was yes.
weird. Also, I didn't know what that was going for, and it was fine.
And none of this happens quickly either. This is
it's all so long. It's in like
over the course of like 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, and this was a clock watcher, and then when you have a clock watcher of a movie, it feels even longer because every 10 minutes is like a milestone, just like tick, tick. It's just like I got a little check mark every 10 minutes because that's what
every time a new scene. Yeah.
Every time a scene ends, but then you can't even. Sometimes I just can't even wait for the scene to end because it's an eternity.
Yeah. What I was gonna say was when a scene starts and you're wondering, is this the last scene? Is this it? And then it's not. And then
but you look at the time and you're like, there's still like 25 minutes left. I'm always trying to. It's always like the meme of the lady doing calculations in my head to like, okay, so I got here at this time. There was about 15 minutes of previews. If the movie is an hour and 56 minutes long with about 5 to 10 minutes of credits, we're looking at about 25 minutes of film left. And I kept trying to like reason with myself like no can't be that long.
The credits are like 10 minutes.
This can't be that long. This can't be this much movie left. And I was wrong every time. So I'm ready to talk about the ending. So with the ending, we find out Ellie has a fashion show, and it's of the dresses that she's been working on throughout the movie, which we did not mention. But the dresses, they look way worse.
They look so much worse than the one she was designing.
Yes, they look so. They're trying to be like high fashion, and like one of them reminds me of like Violet from when she's blown up in Willy Wonka. Like it looks like a big blueberry. And like they just, and I'm not a fashion expert, so somebody out there can explain to me why that's good. But they did not look good.
The one outfit is literally the same as Anya Taylor-Joy's, but they take out the gold piece here and instead make duct tape straps.
Yeah.
And it looks terrible.
Really, really bad.
And everyone in the crowd is just like, "You're killing it, Ellie. This looks
You're
so
killing
good.
it,
We're so
girl."
proud of you. Go." Like they're not good. I don't know. Maybe that's the point, is that fashion can be dumb. And
No, I don't think so. And so then she goes back, and her grandma's there, and her new boyfriend's there. And she looks in the mirror, and Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi are there, and they're just waiting. And Anakin's there. And it's
man,
you did it,
that's
Ellie.
exactly how this ends.
You did it, Ellie. You destroyed the Death Star. You destroyed the second Death Star, Ellie.
That's exactly how this movie ends too.
I guess I was like, this is just the cherry on top that this movie is terrible. The ghost mom that did not appear since the beginning of the movie. You're basically Obi-Wan. You're not even Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan got a whole movie.
Yeah. Oh,
this
man.
means nothing. Oh man.
Yeah.
So bad.
And then Anya Taylor-Joy's character is in the mirror too at one point, and like, is it to me? And then Ellie looks scared, so it's just like, what, is she gonna be haunted by her? Or I thought you guys like made up when the old lady died and everything was cool. Like, what? I don't understand. I don't understand.
Yeah. You set her free. You set her free from her corporeal form.
I didn't realize her midichlorian count was so high.
Yes, she is a Force ghost. So what are you giving Last Night in Soho?
I walked out of it saying a 2.5.
I wanted to walk out of it.
I said
it wasn't that bad, but I was so bored. I was like, man, this is such a waste of my time. I also gave it a 2.5 as well. Because it wasn't terrible. I hated it. I did not connect with this movie in any way. I could recognize that it wasn't, like The Expendables. It was a terrible made movie, whereas this was a better made movie, but I was more bored.
Yeah,
Expendables sucked. Like, don't get me wrong.
I had a better time with Expendables than this.
But I gave that like a 2, I think.
I mean, it depends. I grade these based on how they connected me and how.
No, that's why I gave it a 2.5 as well. Even though I was so mad, dude. Like, for how mad I was, I should give this a 2 at least.
Yeah, I'm doing 2.5 because there is some like good stuff. The cast is good.
I think the performances. Properly. That's what I was here just to watch a bunch of actors I like do work with bad material. I've been a member of the Matt Smith fan club for a long time. He's an excellent actor on Doctor Who, and I'm glad he had a career resurgence with The Crown. He should have been a movie star. Apparently they were talking about making him young Palpatine for the Rise of the Skywalker, and they cut the character and decided to go back with Ian McDiarmid. And I thought that would be cool. And
About Matt Smith, did you notice that his haircut, he had his ears cut out so far back on both sides? It was like it looked really weird when you looked at the side of his head. He is like both handsome and terrifying to look at in this.
Yeah, I've thought that since Doctor Who, but it seems to have only gotten a little bit worse with age because his features are a little bit deeper set, and he's got the forehead lines. He's 40 years old. He's probably like 38 or 39 when they shot this. So he's a decent amount older than Anya Taylor-Joy. But it was fine. It was fine. But yeah, he's a very uncanny face. I think that's what it is. Uncanny handsome is how I would describe it. And maybe that's why he didn't become a big star, as people were weird about his face. But he was the most popular Doctor Who with as far as the ladies. Or, people are being attracted to him. David Tennant was too, but they just upped it by making it younger. But all right, this is not a Doctor Who. But all right, do you have anything else you want to say about this before we move on?
No, I had a note about the beginning of the movie. Is how it opens is essentially a metaphor for the rest of the film because it just opens very small and not big and not like
I didn't
I'm
mind
just
the
bored.
opening so
I
much.
just like it opens on a hallway with her walking in, and just nothing felt grand.
Oh,
Nothing
you know
felt
what I
like
did like about it is that I couldn't tell if that was Anya Taylor-Joy or Thomasin McKenzie, and it looked like Anya Taylor-Joy, and then it like focused, it, like she like
Mm,
walked closer, and it was Thomasin
yeah.
McKenzie. I thought that was cool. I did want to mention that.
Mm.
Oh, I did want to mention that the beginning sequence at the dorm with it's very Mean Girls. It's just very.
Yeah.
It doesn't really come back past. She might have been drugged at the Halloween party, which we don't really even know.
Yeah.
They never reveal it. It's a lot of limp plots that aren't followed through with, like B
Yeah.
plot or no, we're not Z plots. Is that what they call those?
I guess it's just it's like was it like Lost, we're just setting up things to never answer intentionally.
Yeah, but you have at least a
But
TV show to pay
yeah.
shit off 2 seasons from something. This is just booty cheeks. But all right, let's talk about
On to something completely different.
let's talk about a good movie. The French
I love this.
Dispatch, directed by Wes Anderson. This is a fucking loaded cast. Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Tilda Swinton, Lea Seydoux, Francis McDormand, Timothy Chalamet, Jeffrey Wright, Lina Kudry, and Bill Murray, Owen Wilson. Angelica Huston narrates in the beginning. I think isn't Elizabeth Moss in this? Isn't that her name?
She's in for like a split second, I think.
She's in the beginning and the end for very brief, and she has like no lines. There's fucking Jason Schwartzman. There's Fisher Stevens. There's so many actors. Jarvis Cocker is the singer of one of my favorite bands, Pulp, and apparently he did the soundtrack for the film. And they reference him as a fictional band called Tip Top. And I thought that was super cool. Everyone kills it in this. Everyone is at like maybe not the height of their powers, maybe, but this is just a bunch of great artists coming together and making something special. It's structured like an anthology, I would say. It's supposed to be a visual version of a kind of like journalist almanac kind of thing, where you're getting these random articles that they're supposed to be categorized, genred, but these writers just kind of write whatever they want, and they kind of shoehorn it into these categories, and it really feels like that, like a New Yorker. The New Yorker is probably the most popular version of something like that still exists today. You can see it with like the art and the covers that they used, and even like the cartoon part at the end is very inspired by New Yorker covers and those kinds of things. It's a world that I'm not an expert in, admittedly. I don't have a ton of experience with like higher and more intellectual journalism. It's something actually that this movie is kind of inspiring to look into, and it's an art form that it still exists, but is maybe a little bit like this is something of a time forgot with some of the things that the style of the writing and everything. What do you let me just start. What do you got to say about The French Dispatch?
I love this. This was so good. This makes me want to catch up on the few Wes Anderson movies I haven't seen. But it is so fast paced. But I saw somewhere some people online say that was to the detriment. But I don't think
I didn't think it was that fast paced.
I thought this was my initial thing out of theater was that was a breakneck speed movie. But there's a lot, and this is not calling myself dumb, but there were a lot of big vocabulary in this movie that was talked and said very fast, especially on the second story with Frances McDermott and Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah, everyone is
that
talking
I
quickly. Yeah.
that I had a hard time keeping up with. I definitely want to see this a second time. I think it deserves a second watch for sure.
Yes, it's easy. It's so easy because it's broken up into the major. There's like 4 or 5 stories, but it's really 3 major stories. And they're rarely easy. They're individually easy watches. You could even, I think, if you're really into this movie, after a couple watches, you could probably watch it in segments even. Yeah, this movie really encapsulates the 60s. It is definitely a love letter to France. And that's another thing, is it's inspiring to look. I would love to look into more French 60s and 50s French films, because they're supposed to be super innovative and influential, like the stuff that people use today that were established in those times, like the French New Wave and your Jacques Tati and whatnot. And I think that's something that this movie is definitely inspiring to look into more. Like we've seen a couple more modern French films, and even that, like, it's a long tradition of artistic films coming out of that country and those people, and this is certainly a love letter to that, as much as it's the love letter to journalism, intellectual journalism. I'm sure there's a better term for that, but yeah. So the movie opens with an introduction to a lot of the staff at the French Dispatch. There's a really cool, the opening. It's kind of like this MC Escher, like there's a server kind of is walking up the outside of this, it looks like an apartment building or something, this building, and you can see the rooms he's going into, and it's very stage-like. I've seen like more complex constructed stages that are trying to give you the sense of different rooms and different places, and you can really, it's one set, but you can really do a lot of different shit with it, and that's what that kind of felt like. I loved the opening, and then just moving into the Angelica Huston's narration over the different people that work here at the Dispatch. What did you think about, like, before we get to the main stories, what did you think about, like, the opening of the setup?
Oh, I think it's great. I love his, like, what is it, dollhouse diorama style of shooting.
Oh, there's a lot of miniatures in this movie, and he's been using miniatures more and more the last few films. Obviously, Fantastic Mr. Fox is all miniatures, and you can see
Isle
that
of
what
Dogs.
on Isle of Dogs. That's the only one of his I have not seen yet.
Same, I haven't seen that.
And but yeah, the stuff that he's learned from those films are now you can see incorporated in Grand Budapest Hotel, in this as well.
But yeah, the opening sequence and everything, it's just, everything he does is so oddly satisfying. Like, everything just is so, like, cohesive and works and smooth, with the way that the camera works and everything, and popping into the room is just like, I love that every room almost feels like its own individual disconnected set, but it all works cohesively because that's how everything feels in the entire movie. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I fucking loved the aesthetic, and this movie is definitely more on the aesthetic side. I've heard people describe it as a nothing movie. In terms of the content, I would not say that, especially with the first and last story. That there's a lot of them, and all of them, honestly. There's the interesting stories in all 3, but it's more. I will say the style and aesthetic is definitely the forefront. This is the most Wes Anderson movie Wes Anderson has ever made. I think if you were going to pitch it to somebody, if they're going to like it or not, this is the most Wes Anderson.
Definitely agree with that. I feel like I just had it and lost it.
Okay, so let's just move on into the beginning part. So Bill Murray is kind of like the stern boss, and he's kind of trying to wrangle the different the different writers into doing something, and then we open with a article from Owen Wilson's character, who is a bicyclist, and he writes while he rides. There's a little notepad that is affixed to his bicycle, and he rides through the city, and this is like, as an opening sequence, one of the coolest parts of the movie, just with like him doing things in front of a background. Like it's like him riding, but it's like a moving background more than him moving. There's like, miniatures and things, and it just looks so fucking cool. It feels so 60s, and in like the set construction and like how things are made, the practical effects, they even harken back to those times. And I think that's what makes this so even more cohesive, is the top to bottom attention to detail, to like how things were made, how things were shot, how things were blocked. But then with little variations and spins, but even the colors, the colors go back to 60s films, with the first color films, and stuff like that, like the way he uses color. I don't know. It's just the attention to detail is phenomenal, and it makes this world so immersive and whatnot.
Yeah, it's easy to get sucked into, especially like what you were saying with the colors. Wes Anderson always loves to use pastels, nothing harsh. There's rarely any like harsh direct color in things, and that's just kind of his whole aesthetic. And then even from how he frames and like composes a shot, how he staggers the people, it's always either very symmetrical, or it's always like intentionally leading your eye through, and very balanced, and it's just so like easy to get sucked in. And having said that, seeing the cyclist thing opens us up to all the different changes and formats that are going to be used throughout the film. When it comes to, you got black and white CinemaScope, black and white 16:9, black and white 4:3, then you've got color 4:3, color 16:9, animation, the stop motion stuff. Like, it is all over the place, and it works. Not at once does it feel jarring.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even notice any, like, there was like, I wouldn't like, did the aspect ratio just change? Like, has it always been like this? And I didn't even notice, because I was so immersed that I didn't really realize when things would change like that, other than the color, and the animation, like when something would be animated. But this is quite the ensemble. The performances are great, but they're very in line with the Wes Anderson style. It's very dry. It's very quick and direct. It's very in line with all that. But it works so fucking well. Man, it's so good.
Smooth as eggs.
So after the Owen Wilson sequence, which I would say is, honestly, as much as it is a really great opener, it is the weakest of the four stories. The first story is about the first story.
Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, Benicio del Toro is a prisoner, and he is a painter. He's an artist, and his prison guard is his nude model, and that is their interesting dynamic. And then we find out about an art dealer that is in the prison who wants to invest in Benicio del Toro and make him a successful artist once he gets out. This was fantastic. I was super surprised at the nudity in this section.
Yeah.
Not even just the model. Like, I was fine with the model, and I just was like, where are they going with this, and what are they doing? And but interspersed throughout, we get these lectures. They very much look like an old documentary. Or like an old educational film of someone giving a lecture, and she's going through slides, and like randomly halfway through the slides, we just see Tilda Swinton naked. She's like, "Oh, that's me!" And she like kind of waits a second, and then it cuts. And I was like, "Oh wow."
She's just like, "Oh, that's not supposed to be there," and then lets it sit, and then she clicks the slide away and just continues talking like if it was never there. And I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, and maybe it was like the 60s were another time, it was a bit more freer in some of those regards. But I could see that happening when somebody's doing a PowerPoint. Usually there's always the when I was in college, and you had to access your email to get um you had to plug your computer into the projector or whatever, that there was going
Mhm.
to be some kind of like porn in your email, or like some kind of weird porn email or something, and that everyone was going to see when it was big on the screen. I think I had a friend who literally had porn play in front of a class before, so that is very real. but
That's
uh
nuts.
but yeah, it was, I just was very surprised by it, and then there wasn't any more really heavy sexuality through the rest of the film. Um, it's a super interesting story, and Benicio del Toro's performance is always great. He's always been
Mhm.
one of my favorite actors. He kills it and everything. But he's just like this he's man of few words, and he's kind of like suicidal, but he's kind of like a little cheeky also.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, what do you think about this first story?
I love it. I think this is my second favorite behind the last story. But my biggest thing about this is the dialogue, the dynamic between Benicio del Toro and Adrian Brody, because it's just like the one is just a bulldozer who's just gonna do whatever he says regardless of what Benicio del Toro says, and then Benicio del Toro just ends up being this like, oh, well, I guess I've got nothing else to do and I'm locked up in here anyways. You know, do the art shit. And when they have that like big fight scene towards the end of the story, where they're just going at it, and Benicio del Toro's in the wheelchair chasing after him, it was so funny. I always he does the Benicio del Toro, that is, he does the deep gravelly voice so well. I was watching an interview with him yesterday, and his normal speaking voice is way higher pitched, and like it's it's not, it was distracting trying to watch him talk about the movie, but
Oh, and Adrian Brody's performance is amazing in
it's
this
so
section.
good.
I will actually say that he is the best out of everybody in this section. I don't think he's the best in the movie, but to a
Mhm.
point, he was the best in the movie. And I'm not going to spoil who ends up being my MVP, my acting MVP. But he was the front runner for most of the season. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, what do you? Well, how do you feel about him?
I think he's great. I love the banter that he does. He just it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, it's gonna be this, yeah, whatever. I'm
What?
taking, like, he's getting what he wants, and it's just like he fits in so well with just the whole thing. And whenever they have the scene where they bring in all the art, like or when he's talking to his uncles and stuff about selling all the paintings and how people are just gonna fight over it all around the world, and then they have that sequence that they show with it, it's just so good. He sells it so well. Like he's the perfect voice for like the art dealer.
The uncles are played by Henry Winkler and Bob Balaban. It's long time actors. Um, and yeah, this is great. They're great. It's so funny. The scene once they reveal the all the paint that he painted. His big debut is on the wall, actually painted to the wall, or frescoes, and he's like, "I can't sell this. What am I gonna do with this?" And he starts freaking out. And when there's like a following, like there's like this art gang in the city that is
Mhm.
like they're like followers like of Benicio del Toro's character. It's
Yeah.
really funny and it works really well. Um, and yeah, Lena Seydoux has this like subtle performance. You kind of don't really get a read on her. She's like sexually attracted to Benicio del Toro, but then they don't. But she doesn't love him, and then they just turn the relationship kind of just turns into she is his muse and is like manager from within the walls. Kind of keeps him working and it inspires him. And like there was a moment in the beginning where he like tries to like touch in her nude body, and she just like slaps his hand out of the way and just makes this noise like and it's really funny. She has the power. I think that moment was supposed to demonstrate that she's the one who has the power in this situation, and because we're not even fully sure that she is, we don't know she's a prison guard. We're literally introduced to her character as the nude model,
Mm.
and then we find out that she's the guard afterwards. That she puts her clothes on, and it's like, oh shit! But then she's very stern and capable while she's on duty, and I think she gets a bunch of money in the end and leaves. You know, they go their separate ways. But yeah, loves her. Her performance was very subtle, but I think pivotal for how that whole thing worked and how and had it in its impact.
Yeah, my favorite scene with her is the one where Benicio del Toro tries to kill himself in the electric chair. He's just keeps screaming, "Do it!" And then she walks in and is just like, "Is this what you want?" And then puts it on for a split second.
Yeah, it's funny, and he's like, no, he kind of regrets it a little bit.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, while I'm remembering it, one of my favorites parts of this that I thought was really cool was how they did a flashback with a younger actor who I believe is the bellboy from Grand Budapest Hotel. I don't know the actor's name, forgive me. But he plays the younger version of Benicio del Toro, and they show him get through his life all the way to prison, and then we're supposed to jump to the future, closer to the present, and instead of like it just like fading or cutting to the other actor, he just like gets up, and the other actor comes in, and they like change places and like pat each other on the back, like it's like the past welcoming the future, or the future welcoming the past, and I thought that was really really cool because it was long. Like not long, but it was like a minute or two of something that could have been a split second. But I feel like it gave it a lot of flavor, a lot of character. I really like that.
For sure. But how did you feel about Ma, the lady who runs the art gallery in Kansas?
She was funny. She was funny, and that was our connection to Kansas because I fully didn't understand. So apparently, the French Dispatch is just a section of a Kansas paper, right? It is so like you get this little slice of France. They have like an outpost almost in France to write about this for the people of Kansas. To give them their little slice of Europe and whatnot. And I didn't fully understand because it was just such a silly thing, like Kansas isn't gonna give a shit about France. There's this it's a centra of highly cultured people and learned intellectuals. Whereas this is very much intellect, and all Wes Anderson stuff is very I wouldn't say that there are movies that have to be viewed by intellectuals or academics, but he's obviously had a lot of experience and with that stuff as well. And I mean, upper class stuff I think plays a part as well because there's culture I think that it gets associated with people with money. You have the money to go to school and go to get your master's, get your doctorate, whatever. And also like the artists, you have a lot of starving artists have rich parents and they're not starving, that sort of thing. And Wes Anderson plays with all that, and it's a world that not everybody is familiar with fully, but it's very engrossing. It's like you know this, but you don't know this world, and that's how I always feel when I watch his stuff, and always is inspiring to learn about more things. I feel like when I leave a Wes Anderson movie. Do you have any? I think we can move on to the next one. The second part stars Timothy Chalamet and Frances McDormand. And it is chronicling a youth movement, and I thought that this one was really cute and clever. And is so accurate to describe youth movements and leftist movements, and how that they function and what they're about, and how they kind of devolve into factions and fighting, and you end up the movement always ends up killing itself. It's not the outside, it's not the police and the government that ends up dismantling these movements. It's always from within. And he's just super super funny. I really enjoyed Timothy Chalamet's performance. Usually he comes off very wooden isn't a word. Wooden isn't the word because I don't dislike what he does. But it's very he's mostly very subtle and like monotone, the way he delivers lines, and even in other films. And then he's like these outbursts of emotion. He actually does the exact same thing here, where he's very, but he's like charisma. He has more charisma, and then he has that deadpan, quick delivery that everybody has. There's like I can feel charisma in what he's doing versus other performances of his. This is actually probably my favorite Timothy Chalamet performance, though I haven't seen Call Me by Your Name, which everybody That's like the big first Timmy movie.
Yeah. I where I did not like him as much in Dune, this movie has made me like him as an actor. I thought he was great in this. He was real funny, real cheeky. And him with like the stone cold Frances McDermott was an awesome like play. Like she's the
She's
straight man and
excellent, and
he's
she's
the
great in everything. She's
Mhm.
always great. And she's like she's an old, she's around her, probably playing her age. And she's a writer, and she's single. She doesn't have kids. She's never been married. She kind of is getting the reputation of an old maid. And they like, she's in the beginning. I think she's having dinner with Timothée Chalamet's parents, and they're trying to set her up with Christoph Waltz, which is really funny because he's
Yeah.
always plays a awkward goof, a smart but awkward goof in all of his performances. And she doesn't want anything to do with that, and ends up being more interested in the youth movement going on outside and chronicling it. And she ends up sleeping with Timothée Chalamet, who is the leader of the movement. And it happens because he wants her to proofread his manifesto, and she ends up rewriting it for him, from the fucking top to bottom, and
With an appendix.
and it is they bring it up and they use it as a pun, like the appendix burst or something like that towards the
Mhm.
end. Yeah, the appendix thing is really funny. And then it just like they disseminate the material, and they're having their meetings, and there's a younger love interest character for Timothy, who she always has a like a moped helmet on, and she's super cool and hip, and she's kind of like represents the other perspective in the faction. And yeah, I thought this was like a really, it really captured France. France is really known. Paris, the cities are really known for having strong youth movements about shit, a lot. And I think it gets. I think it was almost this is trying to like parody it. Like they don't even know what they're fucking having a movement about. I think they say at one point
Yeah.
it's like to overthrow the neoliberal reactionary thing, like paradigm or something like that. And which is which is valid but also vague, and can be interpreted very ways. We don't actually get any specifics from the manifestos or anything
Mhm.
like that. I think it's very accurate to the spirit and passion. Youth movements are driven more on passion than they are on substance. Not always, and just sometimes. And in the colleges, and this is just super super cool and cute. This is probably the cutest of the three
Mm.
stories. Yeah, I don't know. I loved it a lot. I loved it a lot. What do you got to say about it?
It's my least favorite of the three, but that does not mean that it is the worst of the three, if that
I think
makes
the other
sense. Like
two
I
are
think
just
it's
so good.
yeah, I think like this one is very good too. It's just I happen to like the other ones a little more.
Honestly, I
But
don't know if I
the
like the last one. I like things about the last one the best, but it's
oh, I love
also,
the last one.
I think there's things about it I didn't like as much. So like there's like it's at its best and at its worst. I think the movie for me in the last section, but we'll get to that soon. Um, yeah, is
But
there was there anything?
what
Yeah,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
s- yeah, what I was gonna say was so I loved that the moped girl was just like if Timothy Chalamet is just like your liberal revolution guy, she's like the like 10th time even harder. She's like he's got posters of of that Tip Top band everywhere, and she's like, "What the fuck? You taking this down?" And he's like, "Why? Their music's really good." And she's like, "Because they get money from such and such, which is made by corporations, which is made by the government,
Yep,
which is
there's always
awful."
somebody more
And like
pure. There's always somebody more pure in a leftist movement.
yeah, and she's just dunking on him for everything, and everyone else is like, "What? We like the manifest. What didn't you like about it?" Or the,
Yeah, yeah. All those when it almost is a little bit gendered. Like there's all these
yeah,
bros that are like, what? It's great, and her and a couple of other girls are like, no, this sucks.
yeah,
And it's super super cute. They end up hooking up, and there's this weird thing because it's revealed. Everyone seems to know that Frances McDormand and Timothy Chalamet had sex, and
hmm
and it's like weirded out by it, but she's like, I like him, and they obviously like each other, and there's like a push to get them together, and she's like, well, I'm a virgin, and Timothy's like, I'm a virgin too, well, except for Mrs. Ferments. And it's super funny, and they run off together in love, and it's cute.
I like to play on journalistic integrity. They keep poking at. It was funny.
Yeah. This is great. It's just a lot of fun. This is probably the most fun in the film. But yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, how'd you feel about the chess revolution, where the mayor's office is playing chess?
They're trying to settle it over chess. Yeah, they're trying to settle it over chess. And if he lost, so they were gonna like have to disperse or something. And they kind of then that's the thing I said in the beginning is it then just devolves into them fighting with each other, and then they give up and it's over. The police like show up and break it up, and that's that.
Rest in peace, Timothée Chalamet. At the end.
Oh yeah.
He died trying to climb the radio tower.
Yeah, he dies. Yep, he dies trying to climb the radio tower for the revolution because he's trying to give his big he's reading the revisions to the manifesto, I think is what it was. Yeah, it's great. So I'm ready to talk about the third part. The third part, which is helmed by Jeffrey Wright, who is became one of my favorite actors over the last like 5-6 years. Honestly wasn't. I had probably seen him in things before, but I wasn't really even aware of him. And then I saw him in one of the Hunger Games sequel, and then I saw him in Westworld, the TV show, and he is excellent on Westworld. And then I just started noticing that like he's been in shit for years. I have they did a biopic about Basquiat, the artist in the '90s, and Jeffrey Wright plays Basquiat, and it was like a pretty big movie. I see him in other things all the time. I'm like, oh my god, Jeffrey Wright. But his performance, he's the MVP of the movie.
Oh, hands down.
He wins the MVP of the movie. He's so fucking good. I was surprised Liev Schreiber was in this movie. I would never. I did not expect to see him in a Wes Anderson film for some reason. But good for him.
Real quick, I thought you were gonna say for your MVP. I was hoping you were gonna say the chef.
Oh my god, Stephen Park is all I want to talk about him because I looked into him. I was like, this guy looks so familiar, but also I can't think of him from anything. I'm gonna get to him once we talk about his part, but man, he's probably the number 3. He has a small part, but he has such a big ass impact. Probably one of the best parts in the film. And we're just laughing through the end because all the shit he's saying. So the setup of this one is that Jeffrey Wright is a writer. He's gay. They kind of reveal it subtly, and it's really funny the way that they do it because he's like, he's a lacking skill in cartography is a defining trait of homosexuals. And he's like just showing him like lost in this building. He doesn't know where to go. Oh, it's so good. And like I wasn't sure if the Liev Schreiber talk show was supposed to be how far, and if that's supposed to be in the 70s. I was trying to notice the fashion, and like obviously some time had passed from when we see him in like the 60s outfit, and he looks more, he's got like the more like the pompadour and whatnot. So I wasn't sure if how much time was supposed to pass between, but he even had more lines on his face and whatnot. But
yeah, they made him look super young in the flashback stuff. Like he looked like a good 20 years younger in that stuff.
Well, I wasn't sure if they made him look older for the one part or younger for the other part. He mostly has a beard and like everything he does. So it was weird to see him, clean shaven and very much young. Made him look a lot younger. I think he's in his 50s or early 50s, I think, or maybe even late 40s. But yeah, excellent. And he gets arrested somehow. I forget. How does he end up in jail that Bill Murray bails him out?
I also cannot remember. So much happens in this sequence. But he meets Bill. That's how he meets Bill Murray and gets the job opportunity that kicks off the story, though.
Yeah. So he ends up getting offered a job because he was sending writing samples to his character's name is Roebuck Wright, with same last name. He's supposed to be a food journalist, and he's been sending writing samples to Bill Murray's character. But Bill Murray for some reason didn't like him or whatever. And then he actually he goes oh, I know what happened. Jeffrey Wright had Bill Murray's information somehow that if he was ever in Ennui, which is the name of this fictional France town, to look him up. So he does when he had no one to help him get out of prison. So he calls Bill Murray and Bill Murray, boosts him out and gives him a job, and he tells him what to write about, or he gives him a book. He's like, I need this book reviewed, whatever. And then that's like, I guess it's supposed to be the origin story about how he got the job. And then we learn about his the story that he writes about he attended a private dinner with the commissaire of the Ennui police force. And that's how we learn about that.
I kept reading it as commissioner, but I think it's the same thing. A commissaire.
Yeah. That's a different. I don't know if it means exactly the same thing, but it's pretty much the same title.
Oh,
chief,
yeah. Well, here
the chief.
On the Wikipedia article, it refers to the sequence as the private dining room of the police commissioner. So I guess that would be the same then.
Yeah, I guess so. But it says I'm looking at the same thing, and it says commissaire in the actual text.
That's probably just what the translation is.
But yeah. So what's up with it?
I kept reading it as that because I'm me, and I kept just correcting the French words for some reason. That was it. But I love this whole thing, though. This is what I referred to in my notes. I wrote down that this is Wes Anderson unleashed, like completely unhinged, Wes Anderson off the rails. Is what this whole third story is, and I'm here for every bit of it.
Why do you say that?
Because this whole thing moves like a mile a minute. It's some of the best of the set design stuff with the chef. When it's just ridiculous. Especially when you have the one where all the ducks hanging up and there's 3 of the chef all doing the things at once. I thought was super cool looking. And then the story just gets ridiculous and more ridiculous. And then you've got like in the one chase thing, which we'll get into, where the wrestler guy with the wrestling belt,
he's like the strong man. Yeah, he's like the local strong man.
Yeah, there's the one shot where everyone's getting shot at back and forth, and he's just sitting there bored, just like waiting for his time.
Yeah, well, that's when they said that they were gonna. Let's explain why this is even
so good. Oh, it's so good.
So we'll explain why.
Okay, so Jeffrey Wright, Roebuck Wright, he gets to the dinner with the police commissioner and to write an article about the chef, and the chef is Stephen Park, who's just like, he's a police lieutenant, but he's also a world-renowned chef, I guess. And in the middle of the dinner, Edward Norton calls and just the commissioner is like, "Hey, I kidnapped your kid." And then so the entire dinner just stops, and everyone just all hands on deck to find the kid. And then they find him in this building, and they call in everybody for this. And one of the people is just a generic strong man wearing like the
yeah, well, there's like this list of all the shit that they need and all for this team, this super team. And yeah, there's I like honestly don't remember any. It was all pretty normal stuff. And then you go say, we better tell the local strong man to limber up just in case. Like that was the quote, to limber up, and it just like shows them like stretching or something, like doing a little warm up. And I'm just like, what the fuck is that guy gonna do?
Okay.
And apparently he did a decent amount. But so yeah, the commissioner's son gets kidnapped, and we also learn his name is Gigi, and he's very intelligent, and he's like all super into policing. Like he's like, we see him carrying a case of cold cases, or like a box of cold cases, and he's gonna try to. Him and his buddies are just looking at him, and he knows Morse code, and smart weird kids is definitely a thing in Wes Anderson movies, and he's really funny and adorable. So he gets kidnapped, and they're putting the team together to find him, and he's kidnapped by Edward Norton. And I can never say her name right, but Saoirse Ronan, who's Lady Bird. She's the girl who plays Lady Bird in Lady Bird. She was one of the like prostitutes that was she was the one that was watching him and talking to the little boy. And it was fine. She wasn't in it very much, but she was cool. Edward Norton saying was funny. But it was all fine, you know, nothing crazy. And eventually they bust in, and they, you know, there's this big long chase. But oh yeah, they send in the chef. That's what happened.
He poisons everybody.
They're like, our boy is hungry. He needs a snack. So Kim is it okay? We send in a chef to make him, you know, meal for all of you, and he does. And you know, Edward Norton's like, you got to eat it first because it could be poisoned. And the chef eats one of everything. And it's revealed pretty much immediately after that. Yes, it was poisoned. And he just ate it on purpose. But we'll come back to that later. We come back to that later, and then we find out Edward Norton didn't eat it, and that he takes the kid, and there's this big chase. That's when there's a shootout right before that, but then there's a big chase, and there's the chief, the commissioner, and like our main group of people all get in a car and chase after him. And the strong man we see run and jump onto the front of the car as it drives away. This is when it turns into an animated. The whole chase is animated, and I wanted to ask you about this because I thought that this was the one thing for me that didn't work in the whole movie. I thought that it was obvious that this was being done because they didn't have the money to actually shoot a full chase. And I didn't hate it. It was fine. Like the animation was cool and whatever. Kind of reminded me of not the style of the animation, but maybe the tempo and the way like the sound was. It reminded me of Monty Python animations. Not like I said, not the way it looked, but more like like the running and the chasing and the you just see like little things running across the screen. And like the strong man was probably the best part of it because there's a part where the car like stops and the strong man flies into this window, and then like there's a little scene that happens, and then after like a 5-minute scene, and then they get back in the car and the strong man jumps out of the window and jumps back onto the car like he was supposed to be there. It was really funny, really cute. So that was the best part of it for me, but that was probably the only thing in the whole movie that didn't work for me.
Interesting. I can see how it doesn't, but it worked for me just because it kept the chaotic feel still of everything that preceded it.
It took some of the energy out of it for me,
but
that's what it was. My issue.
See that.
It was my issue. Is like the energy felt like it took some of the air out of it. It wasn't bad. It didn't ruin it, but I felt like if they would have had the money to fully shoot it, like they've been shooting all these other things in the movie, I think it would have been much better.
I can see that. I think I was just riding on the high of just how ridiculous the last sequence going into this sequence was, and that just rode me out through the animated sequence of just like, this is a ride, and I'm 100% here for it. I liked it. It was just silly. It's just and it does. With you saying the Monty Python thing, it definitely feels like that, and in the pacing and the sound design for sure.
Yeah, just the pacing and sound design, and like you just like the big, or see like a big, not landscape, but the background is like there's a big area like zoomed out enough that you can see them like move all around on it. Yeah, that's that. Well, Monty Python is also, I guess it's maybe more 70s, but it starts in the late 60s. But yeah. Other than that, loved it. I think that I think I just have that sequence more stuck in my mind when I think about that part. So it wasn't. That's like my big mark on the movie. But
I think it finishes strong though.
Yes, because afterwards we get our big scene with Stephen Park, the chef. And he says some hilarious shit. Something like they're like talking about how he was brave for doing that, and he's like, honestly, I didn't really want to do it, but I did it because like what I don't remember what he said. It was something like
he said he did it to save the kid.
Yeah, but he's like he did it because he wasn't because he was brave, just because he felt like he had to, or something like that. It was I don't remember the line exactly, but it was really funny, and I was cracking up.
He follows it up with the like this is gonna sound terrible, but the best part about this was that the poison tasted
Oh
something
yeah,
I had never
I got
tasted before.
yeah. It was a taste I never tasted before.
It just went off about how like life changing that was. He's like, I thought I'd tasted everything, and I could just see him dying of poison overdoses in the future as he expands his palate even further.
Yeah, hilarious. That was a great, hilarious moment to finish it on. Great
Mm.
character. He didn't die. Um, just good. So, if I told you that Stephen Park, this is not his first Best Boys film with us, what would you say to that?
I
Don't go
believe it.
googling. Don't go
I'm not.
googling.
I'm not.
I saw
Not
you grab
googling.
that mouse out of
I
reflex.
was going to. I was gonna pull up his Wikipedia, but I don't. I believe it. I can't think of what he was in that we saw. Maybe Blade Runner.
Yeah,
Maybe
I'll give you a couple. You can take a couple guesses, and I
either.
will.
I'm gonna say Blade Runner 2049,
No,
or is it something recent that we saw,
I'll
or a
give you
while
three guesses. You already got one.
ago?
You
Fuck.
only got. I mean, I guess it's 40, 45 movies you got to choose from.
Jeez. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I
Okay,
can't even think.
he was the grocery store owner. It do the right thing.
No way.
Yeah, he was young then. He was young.
Wow.
I just I googled it and looked up a picture and like, man, that is him. So he has been acting for a long ass time, but his Wikipedia is very thin. It's very little, and it's crazy for how much he's worked. He was a cast member on In Living Color. He was in Do the Right Thing, Fargo, Snowpiercer, French Dispatch, Kindergarten Cop, uh,
Jesus.
Kajillionaire, which I've wanted to see. A lot of TV acting as well. But yeah, ton of stuff. But also, he's like, he should. This guy should be a household name. Love him. I want to see more Stephen Park.
Yeah, I'd be down. He was so good at this. He didn't even
He's
have that many lines, but just everything he said was just so funny. He just his whole demeanor and his like wardrobe and everything. It was so funny. Man. But
so yeah. What you got any last things to say before we score this beast?
what was I gonna say? So the movie ends with just them finalizing talking over like the obituary
Oh
stuff
yeah, Bill
for
Murray dies in the end.
yeah.
It's very they don't you're not even obvious it's Bill Murray until they pull the sheet off of him, and they explain why the body's still in the office because the morgue is like busy or closed the day or something, and then they all kind of like talk about him, and there's this rule of no crying in Bill Murray's office, and Elizabeth Moss starts crying in the end, and everyone's like no crying, and that's kind of like what it ends on. Oh no, it ends on Jeffrey Wright writing the
Yeah,
obituary, and
yeah.
yeah, it was a really cute scene. It was a good ending. And it wasn't like a big grand thing. It was just a nice way to put a bow on this whole thing, you know.
Yeah, I think that as a whole, the way that they structure the things outside of the short stories worked to keep it as one self-contained thing. Like I saw somebody online said this was all style, no substance, and I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that people are calling it a nothing movie, like it was all style and it's like not about anything. But I don't think that. It's fun,
No,
but it's
it's
the middle, like each story is definitely about something.
hmm. But even as a whole, though, it's still it's the last dying wish of the thing of Bill Murray's character is to end the magazine with him and pull three of the stories from the past, and the like these are the stories that they picked and these are the reasons why. It shows you like the interactions with Bill Murray and the writer and like how they had interaction and stuff. Was I definitely like there was a whole heart to this movie that is riddled through it that I don't know how you miss.
Oh yeah, I think
This fast.
this is art at high level in my opinion.
Mm.
This is definitely this might be one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies. It's maybe less personal, So if that's important to you, I could see that being a reason why it doesn't connect. But as far as just a amazingly well made film, that is this. Love the French Dispatch. What are you scoring it?
I'm torn between a 4.5 and a 4. I feel like I should give it a 4.5, but I was a lot of the movie. I had a very hard time keeping up with how fast like the things were being spoken and the narration and stuff. And it was a lot of big words. But I think it's after the second time I watch it and I get everything, then yeah, definitely solid 4.5.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 4.5.
It's so good.
I debated it, but yeah, 4.5. I think the only thing that knocks it down for me is the animated sequence, but it was still cool.
Where do you sit this in his filmography?
I put it near the top for me. I think I have an atypical list for him. Some of my favorites are probably more. I like the Royal Tenenbaums. I like Moonrise Kingdom a lot. I like Grand Budapest Hotel a lot. I wanted to say this about Stephen Park. So this is just for you, Kory. This is niche casting, but the character of Mike Soriyama in the Venture Brothers is voiced by Stephen Park.
No way!
I know you know who I'm talking about because even though he's only in a couple episodes, we love that fucking show.
That's the guy that they got to smoke oregano, and he's allergic.
Yeah. Rusty's roommate.
Yeah,
college roommate. Who's in love with Leslie.
Those are good.
The Leslie bots.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's crazy. That
is nuts.
I don't remember what we were talking about before I needed to say that.
Where
I rank this? Let me hold on. I need to see. You tell me about yours while I look up his filmography real quick.
Well, for the longest time, Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou was my favorite.
Yeah.
There's something about that movie is just everything about it is satisfying to watch and just really good. I did really like Grand Budapest Hotel. I did like Rushmore's really good.
Rushmore used to be one of my favorites.
But I think this is for style. I know we just said style over substance, blah blah blah. But because of how like style this is and how much I was into this is up there with Life Aquatic for me. I'd say this is top 3, at least.
Yeah, I think so
really
too.
Good.
I think so too. I really like Rushmore. I really like Life Aquatic. I love them all except for like Darjeeling Limited. I didn't like as much, but people act like that one's super underrated.
I remember when that came out, a lot of people said it wasn't good, and I've never seen it, so I can't give
it's
it an opinion.
It's different than his. It's probably one of the less Wes Anderson feeling ones, but it's got all the actors. It's Adrian Brody, Jason Schwartzman, and a Wilson brother. I forget which one.
I think it's Owen.
I think it's Owen. Oh, that's his preferred Wilson.
I've never seen Fantastic Mr. Fox or Isle of Dogs either.
Fantastic Mr. Fox is excellent. It's a family film, but it's excellent. And Bottle Rocket I saw last year for the first time, and it's good. It wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, though. I think I put it on a pedestal. But it's probably
is that older or newer?
That's his first film, Bottle Rocket.
Oh, I thought Rushmore was.
No, Bottle Rocket is.
Gotcha.
And that's with the Wilson brothers. That's their debut, also.
Oh wow,
both of them. But all right, I think that wraps it up for us. This was a great episode. Next week we have a very interesting episode. We have our first superhero film, right? Yeah, with the Eternals. And honestly, that was just going to give me an excuse to watch Nomadland, both directed by Chloe Zhao, that I've wanted to see since it's come out. So I guess last year is when it came out. But I haven't seen it yet. I really want to. So this is a good excuse to watch a Marvel movie with on the podcast. I hear some mixed things about it, so we'll see.
Yeah.
As far as should we be caught up with the MCU before we watch this movie? Obviously, for Best Boys, we have to review this as a film by itself without its connection to anything else. That's what we do here. But I haven't seen the shows, and I can't watch the shows.
I haven't seen the shows.
They're supposed to be good. It's supposed to be
I've heard
better than the last few movies, but I haven't seen either. I haven't seen Shang-Chi. I haven't seen Captain Marvel. I haven't seen Black Widow.
I've seen Captain Marvel. I haven't seen Shang-Chi or Black Widow, but the last one I saw was Spider-Man Far From Home, which was really good.
Oh, and that one I haven't seen either.
Yeah, I'd watch that one. That one's really good. But
I doubt that any of it's essential for this one. It seems like as long as you're caught, it seems like as long as you're caught up through Endgame,
like Infinity War,
then you're fine. But I might try to watch a couple this week just to catch. I've been needing an excuse to catch up. I think the shows have became intimidating, and then I didn't want to keep going. I want to watch those shows because I hear they're actually been, like I said, better than the last few films. But
I'd like to see Loki. I heard Loki's the best of them.
I heard all three of them though are solid. Not What If, but I heard the other three are good. Yeah,
I heard that I saw the first episode of WandaVision, and it was all right. It was good. But I heard that like after halfway through the season, it gets not as good. But I've heard that Loki was good, and I've actually not heard anything about Falcon and the Winter Soldier from anybody.
I heard it was all right, but it was the weakest of the three.
Yeah, I can see that.
But all right, that's enough Marvel.
Well, I was gonna say I've seen Nomadland.
Okay, yeah.
I've seen Nomadland when it came out last year. Kylie fell asleep. Chris with 20 minutes left said, "If you guys want to turn this off, I totally understand," because he was the one that wanted to see it. He's a big Frances McDormand fan, and I was the only one in the room that was like, "Oh, this is super awesome. It's slow. Like it is."
Chris didn't even like it. He wanted to watch it.
Yeah, he ended up thinking it was kind of boring. I thought it was good. Burn. It is very slow burn, but it's like part biopic, part like it's all entirely scripted, but it's like the way it's shot
on a book. I'm based on a nonfiction book.
Yeah, and that's where you get the stuff because like all the stuff with the in the camps where all the trailer people or the tent people live are like that. All that stuff's real. And they just like got Frances McDormand's like interactions with those people and stuff with just like a few scripted lines, but the majority of it is scripted. I'm very based on seeing that and what the reviews for Eternals say. I wonder if it's just like it's Nomadland but Eternals, and that's why it's not registering well. Is because people wanted a superhero movie, not a slow drama.
Yeah, that's what made me interested in it because I've seen all the Marvels up to that point I mentioned, and like Thor: The Dark World as being the worst one was still a mostly watchable film to me. Mm-hmm. So as far as if you just treat it like a shitty, like a Doctor Who episode or something. Oh my God, I forgot to make this connection earlier, but Last Night in Soho just felt like a 2-part Doctor Who episode to me. Like in terms of like the way the monsters looked and everything, like very high budget Doctor Who episode. Sorry.
Interesting. I can see that. I've only seen it
maybe just because Matt Smith. It's probably just because Matt Smith and everyone's British, so. But yeah. But all right, there you have it. We are ready for next week. And you normos out there can tune in because we got Marvel on the docket. So tell your normo friends and now
we're my territory now.
Yeah, we can indoctrinate them. But all right, yeah, you guys have a good one.
All right, see you, everybody.
Bye.